pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll call the roll. Riley is expected, but he's not here. Kennedy?
Here.
Schmidtke?
Present.
Wilder?
Here.
Nelson? We don't know his...
Expected, but
we think he's
not
expected.
present.
Budney?
Present.
And Benaz. We have a quorum, so we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and supported that tonight's agenda be approved. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we have the minutes of our September 10th meeting. In front of you, you've all had a chance to look at them. Entertain a motion for approval or comments.
So moved
Move approval.
to approve the minutes.
Is there support?
I wasn't here, but I can support if nobody else wants.
I wasn't here. I'll support it.
Okay.
Thank you, Les. Moved and supported that the minutes of our September 10th meeting, of the regular meeting, be approved as distributed. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. On pages 7 through 13 of your packet, you have approval of the bills, the vouchers. Are there any questions?
I do have a question.
Okay. What page?
Page 9. And it's not really with the dollar amounts. It's just an issue that I continue to see in here, and that's the virus issue on this specific computer. And I've talked to Barry a little bit about this, and I was wondering, Barry, if you could just have our computer people get with me. I'd like to
Sure.
tell them I want to know why this keeps happening.
We definitely been having more than I feel computer problems than we should. And especially the one down at the DPW building. It seems like they're down there working on that one once a week for whatever reason. So, I mean, there's definitely a problem.
And the fact that we keep seeing viruses hitting
Yes.
that computer,
Yeah.
and they wipe the virus off and reset it, but the virus keeps coming back. First of all, why are viruses even getting in?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, where's it coming from? So
Right.
I've seen this way too often.
I'll definitely
I'd like
have them
to-
get a hold of you.
That's,
All right, can I ask, is the treasurer's office having issues? Okay. All right, so I assume then that Barry, you and Lorinda will get back with
Sure.
him. And
Not a problem.
any other comments about the vouchers? Hearing none, entertain a motion for approval.
so moved.
Second?
Moved and supported that the vouchers as presented tonight in our packet, pages 7 through 13, be approved as distributed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have the 6-month statement of our operating funds. And just for the audience sake, we have the wastewater treatment plant, sewer system, water system, and our refuse operations, where we, taken together, we're close to half of the township's budget with all those funds. So this is the 6-month statement. I didn't notice anything significant in it. If anybody has any comments or not, we will receive and file it.
Well, in most cases, the budget is pretty much on the mark as being about halfway. In some areas, it's actually lower.
Once the transfers are made.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
All right. Next, we have the treasurer's report, pages 19 and 20. Treasurer's report for all of our funds, DPW funds. And we would entertain a motion to, unless you have any questions, to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved and supported that the treasurer's report for September be approved as distributed. Any comments? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The treasurer's report is approved. I made a couple notes on the back page, particularly with regard to our road fund. That's page 20. I was playing with some ideas on this. You know, road money is always in our mind, and let the minutes reflect that Mr. Riley is here. Welcome, John. Anyway, if you look at page 20, it shows a fund balance in our road fund of $259,000. And in December, we would collect about $225,000 with the 0.4 of a mil we have. That would take us to close to $480,000 as we think about next year's budget, which we'll be working on in December and January. And that's important in light of our discussions that we've been having about road resurfacing projects. So, and just wanted to call that to your attention. I'm always looking at the treasurer's report for that fund balance, and I don't know if this is up to date either. We may not have all our bills posted. There are 2 projects outstanding we're going to discuss later, and together I think they are about $25,000.
Yeah, I still think there's more monies to be deducted from this that we've already spent,
Okay.
basically, yeah.
So that may go down. We'll get to that in a minute, but, okay. Next are the manager's reports. Barry?
Yes, the first one is dump the junk, find the treasure. As you can recall, I think the township has this a couple times a year. It's sponsored by the Open Space Committee. The dumpsters and stuff are kept at the Department of Public Services maintenance facility. And on that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, people can bring anything and dispose of it other than hazardous materials. They can bring car tires, they can bring furniture, they can bring yard waste. We even take some broken concrete in small quantities. Just about anything that they want to get rid of, they can bring and get rid of it on that day. It's overseen by the Open Space Committee. They monitor those 2 days. This time, on Saturday and Sunday, for the first time, we're also having an e-waste collection. There's a company coming in that they will collect any computer monitors, computers, anything electronic, they will collect. And that's also going to be held simultaneously at the same facility. All of this information is going to be on the website. People can get on there and take a look at it. I think it's going to be a good thing. Now, the e-waste is open to anybody. For any community that wants to come and get rid of some e-waste material, they can bring it. So that's going to be kind of held in a separate area at the DPW facility so it doesn't get commingled and confused with the actual dump the junk weekend. So it looks like the Open Space Committee has it pretty well orchestrated, so I think it's going to probably come off pretty well.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add to that with the dump the junk and as it's even titled, find a treasure. As far as the e-waste,
No treasure.
there's no treasure.
There's no treasure.
It goes and that's it.
Yeah.
You can't haul away a TV that somebody else drops off or anything.
No.
It goes in and it
Yep.
stays.
In fact, the way I've been to these facilities before when they've had this type of collection, the car pulls up with their electronic equipment. They have people there that they'll even unload it for you. And they set it right on pallets, and when one pallet's full, they shrink wrap it and put it in a semi-trailer. So there's nothing on the ground, for anybody to go through. They do an excellent job with it.
All right, great. So this whole notice will be posted on the website?
Yes.
Okay. Fine. And one other question. You don't put this in the newspaper, do you?
I don't know if they do. They may put it in the newspaper.
Open Space may put it in
Open Space
newspaper.
will.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people might notice it there as well.
Yeah. It's getting pretty popular. They've done it now for 4 or 5 years, and it seems like each year it gets a little better. We actually have probably 10 roll-off boxes down there, and they all get filled. So it's pretty good opportunity for people on the island.
I thought of something earlier this summer. I went in the drugstore, Save-On, and coming out, I couldn't get out because a bunch of young people were looking at the bulletin board. This would be a great place to post that because everybody looks at that bulletin board coming out of Save-On. I don't know if there's the audience. Do you look at that ever? Anyway, everybody has to buy
Yeah.
pharmaceutical drugs. Or go to the drugstore, let me say it that way. So, anyway, it might be an idea as well. Okay, thanks, Barry. Next item, update on the 2013 concrete road repair program.
Okay, that is pretty well wrapped up for this season. There are GVs over here right now doing a couple of odds and ends. They're doing the approach there at Hawthorne Glen. One of the other areas they're doing is
Playscape.
they're doing Playview over by the Playscape. That's been saw cut and removed today. They're going to be putting a concrete in there. And then the third item, I think that they're going to be a recreation department related. So that they're going to actually be doing three things over here. But that's probably going to wrap that contract up for the season. And so it's done. What they've done looks good. So we should be good for until next summer.
Yeah, and I just want to say, when I mentioned the dollar figures earlier, I think my recollection is that Playscape was around $9,000, and that's when you come out of the post office. You know, there's a concrete road, and if you take notice of it, there's some very deep holes. The expansion joints have really cracked. We're going to saw cut those and then repair them. And I think that the entrance to Hawthorne Glen, if that gets done, that was about $14,000. So together, it's $24,000.
Like I say, those are the only things I think remaining for this year. The next item is the update on the pressure reducing valves. That project is about 90% complete. The bidding documents are prepared, and I believe they're going to go out for bid in the week of October 21st.
Yeah, I think that page 26, our engineers provided us with a list of a couple different things, but you're right, Barry. The PRV valves, it says October 21st are going out for bids. For the audience's sake, that's pressure reducing valve. When we get water from Detroit, we reduce the pressure. It comes in at a high pressure of 70 pounds or so. Is that correct? And it'll break our water mains if it comes in, so it has to be reduced, the pressure. So we're replacing them. And how old are those valves?
They're as old as Les.
25.
They were put in, I believe, in the, before I started in 1965. They
Yeah.
were in before that.
In fact, those actually were put in 1961. I have the invoices and stuff that the township received, so they go back to 1961.
Time to replace them then, eh? Okay.
In fact, to be honest with you, and Les could probably speak to this also, I'm surprised that we have not had issues with those PRVs. Yeah. They have not been touched since
All right, so
1961.
at our next meeting, our November meeting, we'll have the bid prices on our agenda?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, Les.
Did they put two of them on there?
2 PRVs?
Or did they go get an alternate bid for 112-inch?
I'm not sure what the bid documents are like, but I think they're bidding for 2.
My recollection after we discussed it last is we did ask them for 112 and 116 inch, if you remember that?
Well, no, it'd been 2 8s and 112.
All right.
Well, they're not putting in 3. I think they're putting in...
No, it'd be
Either or.
either or.
Yeah, we're going with 2, and one of them may be a 12, and the other one's probably an 8, is my guess right now, but I'd have to check the specification.
Les, you might want to come and look them over.
Yeah, I'd like to.
As soon as I get my hands on them, I'll let you know.
Les used to work for the water department before he retired. Item number 4, water audit report from,
Yeah, there's a water audit report, and that's page 23. Probably a month or 6 weeks ago, a company came to me, Johnson Controls. I think everybody's probably somewhat familiar with that company. And in fact, they wanted to come and address the commission tonight, but after they did our water audit, they didn't see any need for it. Lorinda and John sat down with the 2 people from Johnson Controls, and with the information, the input that we had, numbers-wise, they actually did a water audit for us to see where we stand as far as water loss and what we have. And so this is the result of that audit. And I'm just going to touch on a few things. One thing, our total water loss is only 13.9%, which for the age of our infrastructure and our water mains is probably very good. The other number I think that's important, and you'll see that down there where it says performance indicators, financial indicators. The 13.9% is on the one orange line. And then down at the bottom of that, there's a $111,170 figure. Johnson, John and I had a phone conversation with the two representatives from Johnson Controls. And he said, generally what we're looking at in a community like this that has the same situation that we have, he said that $111,000 number is generally around $300,000. So he said in this case, and we explained to him what we do. We have leak control. We have companies come out, check everything. We monitor everything on a routine basis. He told us, whatever you're doing right. He said, there's no sense in us come out and talking to your commission because we can't save you any money. With $111,000 a year, he said, you guys are in clover. So they didn't even bother coming to the commission. They were going to try and sell you on some cost-effective repairs. The $300,000, they would use some of that money that we're losing to make these corrections in our system. He said, no sense in us coming down. So I thought that was pretty good. If somebody wants to go into this audit in more detail, they can come and see me. I'd be happy to sit down with them and go over it, but it's pretty detailed. And we were actually happy with the outcome at 13.9% total loss for the system we have. I think that's great. It doesn't get any better than that. So we're on the right track. We just have to continue moving forward with some replacement and stuff as we can do it, but continue moving in the direction we're moving. So that pretty much takes care of that.
And Barry, this was done, a program that through the AWWA, which is the American Waterworks Association.
That's right.
So they followed their methodology.
Right. This document that they filled out is produced by AWWA.
Any questions?
The next item is the status of LaSalle Court petitions. And Bill, you probably can, it looks like we got 3.
Yeah, we've had 3 petitions submitted, and as you know, we need 6 in order to proceed with the project. So we'll just occasionally report on it. I guess if we're not going to get petitions, we'll...
If I can address that just for a moment. How long ago were these, did we last have them here and they, knew that they needed to get petitions to us?
It must have been 6 months ago or so, been quite a while.
I guess that what I'm saying is that if that indeed is the case, I think they've given us their answer. They don't want to do this. They don't want to proceed. They don't want to do anything about their street, as far as we're concerned, because only 3 out of the 9, I think it's 9,
right,
said
10,
yes,
well,
we want to proceed, and they have spoken. And I think we should table this, leave it alone, even pull the money that we had allocated for that purpose and use it towards other things. Because if they were interested during this long stretch of time, it would have come forward by now. So I think we need to move on to other things.
I would just comment as the chair. I would not favor pulling the money yet because we've made other improvements on other roads, and we've held this money in abeyance thinking that there may be a special assessment request so we could attach the money that we've set aside to be a match for improvement at one time. We've spent a lot of money on roads like Manchester, which is a concrete road, every year. I think we need to start spending money on LaSalle. Now, maybe not all we have put aside, but we need to start to spend money on LaSalle. That money theoretically is set aside. I mean, that's my own feeling. We haven't spent any money on it. And we've done other gravel roads, or concrete roads, so
And I guess
that'd be my view.
In my view, it would be just a little bit different than that. And that's the fact that it's obviously in their, this is something that affects them more than anybody else, really affects virtually only them.
Right.
And if we have 9 residents on there and only 3 had expressed any interest at all in working with us towards this, and I'd say that they don't consider it much of an issue, and we've got 10,000 more residents in the township to be concerned with.
I understand the
Just
point.
my point of view.
No, I think that, and I appreciate your point. Other comments? Jim, you were going to say
Yeah,
something.
I'm just going to, a little more background. Bill and I actually, one Sunday, went over to talk to the residents because we hadn't gotten any petitions from them. And that was, I can't remember the date we went, but it was
It was,
4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe?
or
was it
well,
more
more
than
than that. I think it was early July. All right, mid-July,
Yeah.
a Sunday.
Okay.
We were invited to come over.
Yeah, we were invited to come over, and subsequent to that, we've now got 3
Since
So-
July?
since our meeting.
So this is now October.
Yeah.
I think that's spoken.
I actually tend to agree with both of you. I think, I mean, from the standpoint, I have no problem doing something on that street, but we do it just like we throw it in the hopper with everything else. We don't, I think they, as Ron said, they've shown the interest isn't there for them to do it.
Okay.
So I have no problem with us having that on the list next year for when we look at our projects, but I think we take them off the board as far as any special treatment.
Jim, maybe for consideration next year, but I think, beyond
And
that.
you're right, I mean, consideration, speaking amongst the board and deciding, but that's it.
And you know, Ron, what I need to clarify, guys, we set aside, I think, up to $50,000.
That's correct.
And if we want to pull some of that and spend, I mean, I'm in favor of doing something there to get started. That doesn't mean we have to spend that amount of money.
But Bill, that's out of our total budget of how much for these improvements?
Well, we generate $220,000 a year.
So out of 220,000, we've said we will set aside 50,000 if they have an interest in matching our money or going forward with this, and they've expressed pretty clearly that they do not. That's all I'm saying, is that,
Okay.
we can revisit next year, but
And we will.
Yeah, in fact, we told them the last time a person from that street, I won't say a representative, but an individual from that street showed up at our meeting, and we said, we kind of have to know by October so the process can, get in gear so that we could do it next spring. And here we are at our October meeting, we have 3.
right.
So,
Well, you're right about that. Phil?
My only comment would be, I would suggest we notify the people of LaSalle Court that we have money set aside that could be used to match their contribution to a total remediation of their problem. And if they're not going to do that, that money is going to be spent for partial restorations or some sort of repair on their road. And if it does come to the point of needing total remediation, it'll just have to be redone. In other words, there's not like, I don't see us being able to just fix a section of it, and then when we go to do the total road, not end up having to redo that, because we're talking about drainage and talking about other issues. So my comment would only be that I would suggest notifying them that this money has been set aside. At this point, we've left it in abeyance to use for a total redo if you're in support of it. But if not, that's going to be piecemealed out, and it won't be there if next year you decide that you do want to do the whole road. We won't have that amount of money to match.
Wasn't that explained to them at the meeting and the other conversations?
I
and
can't
everything else?
recall, Jim, or Ron, I can't recall.
yes, it was.
That's what I thought.
We had a public hearing here. I think it was at our June meeting. We
Right.
spent an hour with them.
Yeah, I don't recall that it was specifically stated that way, but if it was, then maybe just reiterate that once and move on.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. One thing I would say, Phil, we've talked about this with our engineers. It's concrete road.
Correct.
So we can replace slabs starting at Park Lane if we wanted to and start to work our way.
I thought we were changing the widths.
No, the width curb to curb would be the same, but right now it's in 3 sections. Instead of an expansion joint down the middle, it's in thirds.
Correct.
So what we were going to do is saw cut down the middle and
Do
take out
halves.
slab, do half at a time, not half the road at a time, but you could go down and do, say, 4 slabs on either side
Correct.
that way and put the edge drain in at the same time.
For just that
And then
part.
if you did $15,000 worth of work, you could do that and it would be good forever.
Oh, okay. I
And then
wasn't aware of
the
that.
next year you could do 10 or 15,000, it would be good forever, as long as, because The edge drain is the big issue, and it would go into the storm drains. It's
Okay, I
not-
was thinking we would be going in just doing the sections as they are sized now to repair them, as opposed to doing the middle part.
No, that,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
Thank you. All right. Anything else on the South Court?
But you know what, Bill, I was just thinking about an aspect that pertains to all the roads out here. If we hold in abeyance capabilities, that means we must, by virtue of dollars, eliminate some other option. So when you're held in abeyance for so long, there's a double cost. The other project can't get done, and the cost of construction, I think it always goes up. Maybe somebody knows different than I, but it usually goes up.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
So it's doubly harmful to delay ad infinitum, because then everybody on Allen hurts. And that's another factor.
John, I guess that was kind of my point, is we're talking almost 1/4 of our entire budget for the entire island being devoted to a court with 9 residents on it, which we really, I may be wrong, but I don't think have any obligation to do. And, you know, we have so many needs throughout the island for so many road projects that they, again, to me, have expressed the fact that they really don't want to do this. So, but we can talk about it again next year, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, good comments. Any further comments? Ed?
Just a little history. We committed as a commission a set aside of $45,000, I believe.
2 years ago, and then this year, 5,000.
Okay. This is our third collection on our roads
Right.
since that discussion originally started. I'm not sure we can just walk away and do nothing. I don't think the residents have voiced the opinion that they don't want it done. I think they voiced the opinion that they don't want to pay for it, which is one of them to say, but and you have an argument because it is a Wayne County road. It's the same argument we have, I mean, throughout the whole island, because all the roads are Wayne County for the most part. But I think it would behoove this commission, if we set aside those funds, to at least move forward on part of this project. We drive the boat from here on, and if next year we choose not to include that as part of our renovation project, then we don't include it. But I think we've made a commitment, I think this commission has made a commitment to the residents that we would set aside those funds. That's how I remember the meeting that we had. I could be wrong, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we told them that we were setting aside this amount of money. And I just don't know how that's going to wash if we just wash our hands and say, if you're not going to put in anything, we're not going to put in anything. I think we are committed to do something there. It just, as a non-voting member, I just want that's the history that I remember, and that's the argument we're going to get back from them.
Sure.
Because I don't think they're disinterested in the project. I think they're just disinterested in the funding, which ultimately means the same thing in the long run. If there's no money, you can't do the project. But and I do think we have to look at it very heavily. They chose not to commit the funds. We're going to ask any residential Wayne County road area that's residential, that if they want a complete reconstruction of the road, they're going to have to get involved with a program, a special assessment district, as we're asking them to do, and we need to stand firm on that because we just don't have the funds to do it. And I don't see the funds becoming available in the near future,
I don't either.
if at all.
Good points, thank you. All right, we'll move on.
Last item on the manager's report is the status of the Wayne County improvements for East River Road. Right now, the intergovernmental agreement has been signed. The purchase order has been issued. Everyone's in receipt of that. Right now, the project is scheduled to start on October the 15th for the intersection of Governors River Road. So that's just around the corner.
So that is a week from today. If we have decent weather.
Is that a Wayne County thing, or is it?
That is a Wayne County time. And that's what our engineers have been told.
Okay.
That's the best we know at this point.
What, are they going to do all 3 or 4 of those intersections at one time?
I believe so.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to see Church
Yeah.
Road done before winter.
Yeah, once they start them, I think they're going to stay here till completion.
Well, and I would just add to that we hope that they will do it in the last 2 weeks of October. I mean, we've had no contact. The engineers have called them in the past few days without getting through to them or getting a call back. So we hope that schedule will be met. So we'll see. It's sort of like the jail, Wayne County Jail. Anyway, I shouldn't have said that.
We're not 100 million over budget, though.
We didn't have listed any discussion items. Next item on the agenda is the Park Lane Water Main Extension bid recommendation. And I would just say, and I know you're going to explain this, but it's just not Park Lane. There are actually 3 separate sections of water main. I'll let you get into detail.
Yeah.
Barry.
That's correct. We put 3 bid items together in one package. We're doing a small section of replacement on Martin Lane off of Manchester. That piece of water main in there has been a problem for us for more than several years. It seems to have developed quite a few small leaks. Part of it's underneath pavement. So what we're going to do is, Martin Lane is a court. And from the end of that court, we're going to replace that piece of water main back out to Manchester, along with the hydrant that's on the end there is fairly new, so we're going to use that fire hydrant that's already there. But that piece is going to be done as one section of the project. The second section is over on Lakewood. We've got a section of water main over there right now that if we get a break in this particular section, we practically have to shut the entire Jewel Colony down in order to fix it. So it's old. We've had problems with it for many years. We're going to replace that section with new, and we'll be able to isolate Jewel Colony a little bit better. If we have a water main in a certain area, we can turn a couple of valves and maybe only have 15 people out of water rather than 50. So this is a project that was needed to be done for quite a while. So this was another part of the package that was part of this bid. The largest piece is the extension of the water main on Park Lane. From where it dead ends on Park Lane, it's going to be tapped in on Horse Mill, which will eliminate a dead end and create a loop in the system right there, which should provide better flow for the people in the area, better quality water. So those are the 3 items that go with this particular bid, and they were bid as one package.
So in the recommended motion, we need to, Linda, I think the record, we need to add the various sections, because it just says in the main body of the resolution, award the Park Lane Water Main Extension. So we need to add the others. So we have 3 we're dealing with. The total cost is $185,677. The low bidder was RVP Construction. And where are they out of?
Around South Rockwood area.
Okay.
South Rockford.
Carlton, South Rockwood.
Local.
You all have copies of the bid sheets. We had 4 bids ranging from $185,000 to $236,000. Any questions?
Couple of things, Mr. Chairman. First of all, on the bid tabulations, each one is actually titled Park Lane Water Main Extension, Horse Mill to Wood, even though in the subsection, it shows like the Park Lane or the
Right.
Balmoral or
Right.
whatever, so I'm not,
We,
is the project itself called Horse Mill
Park Lane Water Main
Park Lane,
Extension.
so then probably the wording is okay
It,
without adding it?
we used that as the title for the overall project,
Yeah.
but it included these two other sections.
Right.
Yeah.
My question also was, have we dealt with RVP before?
No.
Do we know anything about them?
I don't personally. I think the Raines Company checked into their background, and from what I can tell,
No, we did, Barry. Miranda, you were part of that discussion, I think. Sohail is familiar with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He checked, I think, 2 or 3 other references of communities
Okay.
down in our area, and they all said that they did good work.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we couldn't
there was
find.
no reason to discount their low bid.
Okay.
Yeah, because the low bid is only low by,
It's very close.
what, $2,400. And we are familiar with Compo and their work and what they've done for us, so.
To be honest with you, I'm holding my breath a little bit because I don't have any experience with them personally. In a couple of these projects, the Lakewood over in Jewel Colony and the Martin Lane are pretty intricate work. We've got to replace a piece of water main over there and keep the residents in water. So you have to install the new water main first, you got to pressure test it, you got to chlorinate it before you can even take the old main out of service. These kind of things have to go without a glitch in order to make everything work.
You have reference that they checked? Who are they?
Terry's got it.
Who are they?
Yeah.
They've checked, they checked with BASF Wyandotte, City of Trenton, City of Flat Rock, and the Rivergate Healthcare. So apparently they did some work for those folks.
And what were the results?
I think they came back okay. I mean,
That's what Sohail told
yeah,
me.
they didn't, I didn't hear anything negative about it. I don't, be honest with you, I don't think they have a lot of municipal water main experience, but, you know, their stuff came back good, so we need to give them a shot at it, I guess.
Other questions?
I have it, I just have it, and just for, it just hit my eye, the one item on the Lakewood Balmoral page, page 30, number 6. I was hoping someone could explain to me why the huge difference
I can,
in price.
because I asked the same question myself.
Well,
I called Compo up and I said, since when does it cost $12,000 to put in a cross? And he says, what I did with that number, he said, I took all the odds and ends that I had from the job and I put them in that one bid item.
So that's
That's what made
catch-all.
up his 12, yeah, that's what made up his 12.
Because the next page flips the other way as far as price, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
kind of negated
Yeah.
each other
Yeah.
in total.
I caught that right away
But,
too, Jim.
it just, yeah, that kind of jumped
It
out.
was weird, and in fact,
Okay,
yeah,
good enough.
but that was his explanation.
Good question. I didn't. Okay, if there are no other questions or concerns, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we recommend the township board to accept these bids for replacement of these 3 projects
To our RVP Construction,
to RVP Construction.
$185,677.
Second.
Moved and supported that the motion be approved. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I know we have in the audience, the next item, the Rucker Road Drainage Report and Recommendations, cleaning and inspection of storm drains leading to Frenchman's Creek. Megan Stewart from Rucker is in the audience. And I would just preface any comments I have by saying that on September 27th, we had a meeting with Mr. Steve Milge and Tom one of your neighbors, Tom Zanin. They were at the meeting, attended by myself and Lorinda and Jim. We were all present, along with our engineers. And in your packets tonight, everybody, you have a report that you haven't had a chance to look at. It was distributed today. And did we have an extra copy of it, Lorinda? If not, we can make one available to you. The fact of the matter is, can you put the report on the screen, Lorinda, or? At any rate, would you refer to the map, the colored map, the aerial photography? And unless you can jump in any time, you know this area. But basically, the blue line is what we've known as the 30-inch storm drain. And the red line is a storm drain today. It was an old sanitary sewer that served the air base when it was here. And they both empty into Frenchman's Creek. We discussed the need to clean those, and Raines Engineering has been out putting bid specs together. They had a pre-construction meeting on October 1st with two contractors that clean and TV inspect. They pull a camera through the sewers to look at what it would take to clean both those. We were going to ask two firms that do this kind of work to give us a price. So I'm going to read this brief report that we were just given today. We're in the process of soliciting quotations for the cleaning and televising of the storm systems between Meridian at Intrepid and Frenchman's Creek at the westerly border of the Grosse Ile Municipal Airport. The sewers traverse Commerce Park and the airport westerly zone south of Grow Road. Now these, obviously, if you look at the map, these really drain the area by Rucker and Meridian. Receipt of the quotes previously scheduled for October 7th was rescheduled pursuant to a pre-bid meeting with October 1st. Now, what happened is they met with the contractors and they were pulling manholes up when they could find them. Some were covered with grass on the airport property. And after they inspected them, what I would tell you that was told to me by Sahil today is of the old, the 24-inch less, that was a sanitary that was converted to a storm some time ago, quite a section, maybe even over half of it, was dry and clean from the manholes they could inspect. So one of two things. There's either a blockage north of the dry area, and if you look at the map, we're just about where it says the words Frenchman's Creek. It would be a little bit north of that area that they think is where there's either a blockage or a siphon. Now, I don't know why, and I asked Sohail this, and he said, well, they may have put a siphon in at some point.
Well, let me jump in here.
Okay.
Where the line comes straight down, and then it makes a kind of a curve going towards the runway.
Yep.
We followed that all the way down to there, and the manholes that we got into, they were charged, they were full of water. That is where we put the dye in, and I dumped enough dye in there to dye the western end of Lake Erie red. It never came out. And it took quite a while before it finally came out, so I know that the outfall is north of the creek that is between Boucher and Broadhead. Because this friend of ours that lives right here on the point where the two canals meet, he said as far as he could see up the canal, it was all red. So the outfall is north and not way down here where they have it drawn.
Okay. Well, in the discussion I had today with Sohail, he's our engineer, he wanted to meet with you to see what you knew about the pipe. The other thing that came out in the meeting that we had with Jim and I is that they've not been able to discover the actual outfall.
No, we couldn't find it either, because it's
So-
under the canal.
So it's under the canal, and we may have to incur some expense to try to find it. So when they met with the two contractors last Thursday, they, as I said, they kept pulling manhole covers, and then when they found this large section, they decided they couldn't get pricing at that point because we don't want to clean pipe that's not necessary to clean. We have to find out what's going on.
That might have been some of the sections that John Keim and I cleaned.
All right, so what he told me today is that they're going to resume manhole inspections Thursday. He wanted to talk to you tomorrow, if it's possible.
No problem.
And try to, so let me just explain to Megan. We are going to clean the pipe and TV it, and I'll call Steve Milge and tell him that, but we got to know what we're doing before we can actually do it. So, we haven't discovered all the information in the pipe. The old pipe system was built by the Air Base, 40 years, 60 years ago, I guess it's fair to say. So we're committed to, I'm personally committed to cleaning the pipe and trying to discover what's going on. But with this latest revelation, so Hill suggested that we, in order to expedite the award of the cleaning and televising contract, and he said that within the next week to 10 days, he'll have more information gathered. And particularly if he meets with you, Les.
Well, did they, in the meeting that you had, did they have any of the elevations that they shot
Yes.
for the pond and
Yes, absolutely.
backyards?
And they do. And what you had suggested, so Hal can explain to you, that will help, but the water has to raise a certain level before it spills into the outfall.
Well, that'll relieve the backup.
But if it's plugged, it's not gonna relieve it fully. So I think that you two need to sit down and discuss that. Now, so Hill, our engineers, suggested that what we should do, if we want to move this along, given the fact that we're advisory, our commission's advisory, and that we could adopt one of two things. We could adopt a resolution tonight and recommend that we would recommend to the township board that they approve up to, that we tonight approve up to $100,000 for TV, cleaning, TVing the line and cleaning it, assuming that that would be enough in the budget to do that work. Or we could have a special meeting once they discover more, call a special meeting and make a recommendation. We're looking at making a recommendation to go to the township board, Ted, on October 28th. So we can get the work started. But the engineers felt like they needed more information to gather, and it would require a little more time and a little more historical gathering, so.
I talked to Sohio also, and you're right, Bill. That's kind of what he indicated. He said that they need to gather a little bit more information, and that's one of the reasons he threw out the 100,000 request from the commission. He said if we didn't want to have to bring that back to the commission and want to expedite the project, we could authorize up to $100,000, and that would give the commission's approval. And he said by the October 28th meeting, he would have the bids ready to be read. In other words, the bids have been read, and the recommendation could be to the township board to go forward with it.
And I think the point being with the two contractors that are downriver contractors do this type of work, is in order for them to give us a price, they got to have some parameters and know just
Sure.
what they're dealing with.
Sure.
And if there's 1,000 or 2,000 feet of pipe that seem to be open and clear, and water's not getting to it, we need to know why.
Yeah, we
Makes
certainly don't
sense?
want to, we don't want to pay for TV and cleaning on pipes that are already clean. I mean, it's,
Or if they aren't functioning at all.
right.
Now, one other thought I had as we talked about this, and that hasn't been into any engineering yet, but if we could identify the pipe less, it's possible we could put a brand-new outfall in. That might be cheaper than cleaning an extra 1,000 or 2 feet. Just put a new outfall in from the pipe if we can identify them. You got a question, Ted? And that was my idea. I'm not sure it has merit.
I'm not sure we want to put a number on it from this commission, because we don't know what that number is. I think 100,000 would probably be adequate, but what if it's 110,000? We've got to come back to the board. I would think that maybe we just put forward the recommendation from this commission to the township board to move forward with the cleaning and televising and cleaning of the system based on a recommendation of the Rains Company, if we'll have those numbers by then, and not even put a number on until we know what the number is.
I don't have a problem with that suggestion, so it would move forward.
Just recommend this commission to the board that we do it based on the recommendation of the Rains Company, and by then he should have the numbers together, and our motion is already formed then, right? Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
'Cause I just hate to see it start bouncing back and forth between commission and board if we don't have to put a number on it now, which we don't. We're just
There's no
recommending
ability.
that we do it. This commission will recommend that we do it.
There's no ability. We don't even know where the outfall is. They didn't have it located right.
They have-
Yeah, and you know, I know there's a siphon in there somewhere.
That's kind of
I've heard that
shooting in
from
the
more than one
dark.
person.
Well, and on the outfall, they may have to get a company to come in that can go underwater and try to find it, but we have to be able to, and I should say this also, they talk about, they want a dye test, correct?
Sure.
And we even thought about getting the fire department to take a pumper into some of the manholes and try to take the dyed water and see where it will go under a test. See if we can see where it will come out into Frenchman's Creek. So there's some work to be done yet.
Yeah, this job has probably been called for years and years and years. I want to make sure that whatever we do at this end helps that end, or at least resolves as much of that issue we can, geographically and engineered-wise. I don't want to throw money at this project till we know exactly what the project is.
Well, the township manager and I have also talked about this, and Dale has told me, Lorinda, I think you were present, that it's been long enough that this hasn't been cleaned. It's time we clean it. Everybody in agreement with that? So I just want to indicate to you that it is our intent to clean it. We just need to know what we're doing in order to get proper bids. This was a new discovery. We thought we have like 7,000 feet of pipe we're going to go clean between the two pipe. And if a couple thousand of it are totally dry, we have to find out why. And they went on the airport. Some of the manholes were clear, some were covered with sod, and they found them. And not all of them. There's still some to find. And some were dirty, and then many of them were just totally clean. Haven't had any silt built up in them at all. So there's something going on we don't know.
I don't think we've ever done an underground survey on this, ever.
That's why, not in anybody's memory.
And it's time to do that, probably.
Now, as you go back, I just want to make it clear, our intent is to move forward with this. But Les, you prepared a statement that you passed out. You want to read it?
Well, I gave everybody a statement. Did Barry get one?
I didn't get one.
I get one.
We can pass Jim's along here.
I read it, so take it.
That's basically what has transpired in all the years. Is I worked for the DPW for 43 years and did a lot of sewer cleaning and inspection. In 2009, when I was still employed by the township, John Kime and I took it upon ourselves to try and solve the flooding problem at Rucker Meridian. We worked on the storm sewer that's connected to the drain under Meridian for 2 weeks. We followed the sewer west across the airport to the west boundary and southward. As we cleaned and inspected the sewer, we found it full of debris, and the southern end charged, which is underwater, because of the outfall is under Frenchman's Creek somewhere. We dye tested the sewer, and we could never find the outfall. It took several days for the dye to discharge, and when it did, it turned Frenchman's Creek all red for a few days. We still don't know where the outlet is. That's when we figured out that a discharge into the pond would relieve the backup in that sewer and get rid of the water much quicker than waiting for it to flush its way out of the old sewer that went to the Davies treatment plant. I know this plan would work and be cheaper than trying to clean out the old sewer all the way across and down the west side of the airport. Nothing has been done to solve the flooding problem since I retired. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. Any further comments, I guess? And you're welcome to speak if you wish.
Well, I mean,
Please come up to the mic and give us your name and street.
My name is Megan Stewart. I live at 9204 Rucker Road. I'm the second house east of Meridian and the lowest elevation of all the houses on the north side of Rucker Road. So I received the largest amount of flood damage. When it originally happened at the beginning of July, I spoke with Mr. Sedlock on the phone, and he said normally it will take 12 hours to drain. It took 6 days. Later on in the month, it rained again. I believe that was July 20th. And again, my yard filled for 7 days without receding. Now my entire backyard is dead. So I want to know how I would go about getting that repaired also.
By the township? No, yeah, I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't have an answer. You'd have to make a claim, I guess, if you felt it was, am I right on that?
Yeah, if you feel that property's been damaged, you probably would have to come to the township and make a claim.
Okay.
And I'd be honest with you, on storm drainage, I wouldn't know exactly even what to do with it. We have a system in place when we have a sanitary sewer backup, but we don't have anything in place for storm sewer. So, be honest with you, I don't even know where the claim would go.
Well, and after hearing the board speak about, we don't know where it is and we don't know where the outfall is, I would like to entertain Len's suggestion to move that over to the retention pond into the 36-inch main.
Well, that's one thing. That won't solve the problem, though, entirely.
We have to get it out there, too.
Mhm.
I tell you what, the engineers need to be here for our next discussion on this. I mean, I think it's getting to that point. The engineers, that's a good suggestion. It just won't solve the problem entirely. Just like cleaning the ditch won't solve the problem entirely. We need to find the outfall, and that's where I came up with the idea, well, maybe we need to, instead of running 4,000 feet down to where we think the outfall is, maybe we need to put a new outfall. Maybe that'd be cheaper than cleaning. I don't know the answer to that. And so we're trying to come up with solutions here, and we're not going to give up at this point.
Okay.
I think that's the main point.
I think it needs to be noted that during this time period, we probably had 100-year rainfall in that period. I can't remember a time when we got 12 to 14 inches of rain in 30 days, ever. And I think historically going back, there's probably always been a problem there for even when you bought the house. But the problem is exacerbated by the amount of rain we got, which just brought it to the forefront. I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's rainwater. I don't know that you're going to have a claim with an act of God. I just don't know what the policy is. You're certainly welcome to investigate that. But what it did point out, I guess it pointed out the severity of the problem. It's one thing to have a couple of feet of your backyard underwater. It's another thing not even be able to go out to your patio. And those are issues that we haven't had to address before. And you've tolerated it for a number of years when you didn't have 12 to 14 inches of rain. I'm not making excuses, but historically going back now, we don't want to throw a lot of money in a project that the next time we have an 8 or 10 inch rainfall, you're in the same situation because it doesn't drain fast enough. So I'm sure you don't care whether that water is there for 1 day or 7 days. You don't want it there at all. And what we're attempting to do now is correct that situation. But it's a lot more than just going across the street into a pond that may, if the pond fills up, you may end up, I don't know if you remember the incident at the corner of Grow Road and East River, the Burns house. They put that drain in, the canal filled up and dumped the canal in their yard. And they had like 15 inches of water throughout their house. We don't want in a situation like that where we create a problem that's worse than the one that we're dealing with. So, I encourage you to check and see if there's any way that you can file a claim or for your backyard. And trust me, I sympathize. It's tough enough to keep your properties up as it is. But this commission is really looking at how do we fix this for you and for the rest of the residents down there. And hopefully we won't get another 100-year rain, but we could get it next year. You just don't know. So we'll do what we can.
Do we think that the engineers will have figures or knowledge enough by the 28th meeting?
Yes, that's the hope at this point.
We don't, yes, I think we'll know what it's going to cost us anyway.
Would you, before you make sure Lorinda gets your phone number so we know how to contact you, we'll keep you informed. I have the information for for Tom Zanin and Steve Melge, and we'll keep all of you informed.
Okay.
As to what's going on. But again, this was discovered when they took the contractors out to show them what they were going to bid on, and they started pulling manhole covers, and they said, well, this is dry. There's something wrong here. This doesn't add up. So, and they don't know. We're gathering a lot of old information. They don't know, and you can give them an approximation of where the old wastewater plant was.
Yeah, it is.
Because if there was
I
anything...
think it's where, on this drawing, where that arrow turns and heads down the west side of the runway is about approximately where it was at. Because the outfall has to be north of Boucher, because that's where it all turned red.
Well, we want to set up a meeting with you, so he'll need to...
Again, Bill, I think it's all speculation now.
I know.
And until we get underground and investigate, televise, and take a good look at it, we're just speculating.
Right.
And I don't think we'll solve the problem doing that. We need to come up with some solid answers so that we don't just throw money at this project and don't end up with the result we want.
Well, I think you're right. So the thought was is we either adopt a resolution tonight or agree to have a special meeting like a week from now, or 10 days from now, whatever, but before the 28th, in time to make a recommendation to the township board.
So Ted, what you're saying,
No.
we don't necessarily have to put a dollar number on that.
Just recommend that we do it. Based on CE Rain's recommendation, he'll have the numbers together, and you can put that motion in front of the board on the 28th.
In fact, the bids will be ready on the 28th.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm talking about.
sure.
Then we know exactly what it's going to cost.
All right, so the motion is to recommend that we do the cleaning and TV inspection of both the storm drains that drain the area from Rucker and Meridian to the Frenchman's Creek. Does that work?
Correct.
Second.
And, okay. It's been moved and supported that we do that, that we adopt a resolution to clean both storm sewers that drain drainage from the vicinity of Rucker and Meridian to the Frenchman's Creek.
I would just add one paragraph to that. Clean, televise, and make required repairs.
Clean, televise, and make required repairs.
Because that way, if we have to get into
And again, it would be
That saves
based-
us from coming back for,
And that would be based on the recommendations and bids of the CE Rains Company and private contractor bid prices.
we just want to stop this from bouncing back and forth between the commission and the board.
So who made the motion again? Okay.
And Jim, you supported it?
I support it.
Further discussion?
One thing about discussing, did they give you a cost, what it would cost to put a manhole in that 50-foot pipe?
No, I don't have that, Dennis, and I don't have that, no.
Okay.
Now, that could be something that would come out of further discussions.
Well, that's what we need to look at too, the cost of cleaning that sewer and TVing it compared to putting a manhole in 50-foot of pipe.
Well, I would view that as part of the repair.
Maybe I'll come up in a meeting with Sahil.
Yeah. fact is, I'm thinking that maybe a couple of us like to be there with you. So we'll see if we can set something up. Okay? In the next, either tomorrow or Thursday. All right, so we have a motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're going to proceed and make a recommendation on that project. Next is item number 3, the Loma Circle Drainage Report and Recommendations. Mr. and Mrs. Kurt and Laura Polsky. Did I say that right?
No, no, it does.
Say it again. Polsky, okay. At any rate, you're here, thank you. And you're willing to ask, you can approach the bench if you have any questions. But we have a report. And it's from Russ Whitman of our engineering firm. I think we ran a copy of the report for you and gave it to you earlier tonight. The report is brief. It says we've visited the site and discussed the drainage with the homeowners, and we've also met and walked the area with the representatives of Hawthorne Glen. Now, your property is immediately south of Hawthorne Glen. In early July, the homeowner experienced flooding. He also stated his rear yard floods from time to time. An existing swale and ditch between Loma Circle rear yards and Hawthorne Glen was graded some years ago, probably during the original construction, to intercept the drainage and divert it to a low area to the east and away from Loma Circle. Over time, this ditch has silted in and been overgrown with vegetation, reducing its effectiveness. Our surveyors have performed a topographic survey of the general area. It appears the existing small ditch along the south property line of Hawthorne condominiums could be extended and improved by regrading and deepening its depth 12 to 18 inches for about 400 feet. The area of work is located on Hawthorne Glen condominium property. We have received their preliminary approval, allowing the township to do the work along the southerly property line. The scope of the work would include small tree and brush removal, along with restoration and sodding of disturbed areas of the condominium property. The preliminary estimated cost for construction work is $15,500. In the event the commission desires to proceed with the final design, the project should be constructed. Now, he suggested late spring because of the disturbance it's going to cause to Hawthorne property. So when I saw that in the report, I asked if they could move that schedule up and possibly talk to Hawthorne Glen about moving it up so the work could be done early winter at some point. The only problem you're going to have is if we could confine the area of Hawthorne Glen where their yard areas are going to be all disturbed, but maybe get the drainage swale built in the colder months before spring. So that's what we're going to explore. So what I'm suggesting here tonight is that we adopt a resolution authorizing the engineers to continue to pursue the schedule and get specifications out and solicit bids so we know what we're talking about.
Sure.
And bring us back at our next meeting for a finalization.
Works for me.
So what the motion should read is that we recommend that the engineers prepare the specifications, solicit bids, and continue to talk to Hawthorne Glen about the schedule and see if it can't be moved up so the work could be undertaken as soon as possible.
So moved.
Second.
Further questions? If not, entertain a motion to approve. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we're taking another step forward on this project. So. Last item on our agenda has to do with something we've been talking about a long time, and that is reconsideration of a plan for long-term road and water main improvements. Beginning on page 39, members of the commission, you all have the report that we read in detail at our September meeting, and I'll just highlight it. And then I also want you to notice on page 43, I attempted at 43 and 44 to write up some notes from our discussion. I hope you've had a chance to look at those. And bottom line is, here's what we've been talking about. We started our discussion to talk about Church Road. If people are familiar with Church Road, if you either go to one of the churches in the area, or Catholic Church in particular, or have children that go on to Park Lane Elementary, and you've driven down Church Road, it's one of the roads, major primary road in our community, that is not eligible for federal funding of any sort, grant money, and it needs to be totally reconstructed and widened for safety purposes. So that's how for a couple of years now, we've been meeting, had a Church Road subcommittee to look at that. And one of the thoughts is, well, if that road needs to be rebuilt, before we rebuild it, the water main has to be replaced, because it's 7 years old. We don't want to put a new road in over a water main that's going to keep breaking and have to dig it up to repair the water main. That led to a discussion about, well, how do we expect the people throughout the whole community with road needs we have to just approve Church Road and we're not doing anything for anybody else? So we started talking about major resurfacing of 3 or 4 miles of Meridian. Basically, if you get on Meridian at Parkway and drive north, for the next 3 miles, it's in very bad shape. A lot of bumps, it's breaking up. And then also East River Road, same thing, from basically Parkway north up to Horse Mill, it's in very bad shape. And that's about 3.5 miles. Our proposal would say, well, we should go to Wayne County because those 2 primary roads are eligible for 80% federal grants. Perhaps we could convince them on the resurfacing of those roads to work with us. We've been studying another thing called chip seal, and it's a way that we could reduce our costs from about, let's say, $400,000 a mile to resurface asphalt roads, that we could chip seal a road for between $30,000 and $40,000 a mile. Monroe County successfully, and many other counties in Michigan do chip seal as a process. We've been to Monroe County and studied their roads, met with the road commission, studied their systems, and Barry lives in Monroe County, and you can attest that it's an effective way of extending the life of asphalt roads. We're looking at upwards of 10 or 12 miles of chip seal. And then we have some major water main projects that we want to undertake, replacing the water main on Meridian at $4.5 million. That's about 4 to 5 miles of water main. And East River Road, $1.5 million for about 2.5 miles of water main. So this would all involve, how do we pay for it? We talked about bonding, long-term bonding, going to the voters and asking for a road millage and a bond issue. We've been talking about maybe going in 2014, but there's a couple things hanging out over the township's head. One of them is discussions with the State Department of Environmental Quality about the overflows at our wastewater plant and what that might mean as far as additional sewer work we have to do. And if we looked at all of our current bond issues, and we really don't get any big relief where we could keep the tax rate the same and yet retire when some of the bond issues fall off, but they don't really significantly fall off. We're paying about $3 million a year in debt for all the townships' debt for prior capital projects, and most of that, 60 to 70% of it, is from the big sewer project that was undertaken in the beginning of this of the 2000s. That was a project that took 3 to 4 years to build, if you remember. And the debt really doesn't fall off until 2024. So the current principal and interest payments are, if you graph them out, are remaining pretty consistent at that $3 million level. That's depicted on page A of that packet. So we looked at all the debt, current bond issues, and then other issues that are coming up for renewal, for fire department, police operating, and so forth. So as we left our study session, we concluded that we would continue to talk about this and yet defer our plan until maybe 2015. Now, we put this map together, you can't really see, but there's road improvements all over the township. And at some point, we're going to have to show this on our screen, but we're talking about improvements all over the township. At the conclusion of our study session, we thought about, we were going to try to do 1 mile or 2 miles this year of chip seal. We picked Ferry Road and either Bellevue or a section of East River from Grow north to Manchester. And Monroe County actually came out and looked at the possibility of chip sealing those, and of course, they ran out of time because of all the wet weather, so they didn't do it. I've made arrangements for a company out of Alma. There's 2 companies in the state that do chip seal, private companies. One's located in Alma, one's located in Saginaw. And they do most of the counties throughout the state. They chip seal. And they're willing to come out and look at our roads and give us some further advice on what to do. But anyway, we talked about possibly doing 4 or 5 miles of chip seal next year. If we're not going to proceed with our program, maybe we spend $150,000, $200,000 on chip sealing some roads, let the citizens see what it looks like and how effective it is. We can make our own decisions, and then we might go forward with a program. Now, if you chip seal, it would require that you may have to do it, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, usually, about 3 years.
Apart, and it starts to build up a little bit. And a lot of our asphalt roads have a lot of cracking in them. We've been doing joint sealing and crack repairs, but the chip seal seems to really bond that together. So, and it looks very nice too. So that's where we are. And the only reason I went into this discussion is I'd like the commission to talk about. It seems to me what we need to do is we need to keep talking about these projects. We can't just let it fall through. And I wanted to verify what your thinking is. I mean, if I captured the essence of our discussion, and if so, we need to have a plan. That's all I'm saying. We need to have a plan and work towards it, have a vision of what we want to do. Phil, you weren't at that. I think you were not available.
No,
at that meeting.
no, I wasn't.
And Jim wasn't there either, if I recall. But I think we need to have a vision and a plan. And as we approach budget, budget be working on in January, whatever, even though we might not budget anything but the chip sealing, at least I think we need to go forward at some point to the township board and say, here's our vision, where we want to go with things. And I invite your comments.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I fully agree with you. I don't think we can afford to say, well, we're not going to go forward with this until 2015 and put it aside. I think we can continue to look in. We can continue to look at Church Road, decide on the design, what we want to do with it, continue as we have. In fact, I think we're in a kind of a catch-22. We say we're not going to go forth with any type of proposal in 2014. That doesn't stop any of the other commissions or the board, in fact, from going forth for other departments, which bothers me. That we could, in 2015, we could be in as bad a position or worse because of possibly new millages from other departments. As we have, this year we have one on the November ballot. But at the very least, I agree that we should continue with our plan. I think our plan is good because it does touch the whole island. Everybody gets something, and in fact, whether you're on the north end or the south end, if we fix something, it's good for the whole community. But we certainly the ACO in dealing with the state on that sewer project, that is a big factor that we should know what we're doing on that.
Sure.
So anyway, I agree with the idea of going forth with some chip sealing. I think that not only does it take care of some roads, but it also will show the community what that can do. And I think we're all pretty well sold on what it can do. And then also to continue with the plan and getting it ready so that when we do go forth with it, whenever that is, we're ready to roll and we're not just starting, so.
Jim, I agree with you, and I think that everybody in this island will agree that our roads are in very, very bad shape. And if we can maximize the number of miles being improved without having to go forward with bond issues and so forth initially, and use the bulk, the majority of our annual road improvement, am I saying the road repair budget next year towards doing chip sealing several miles of road on this island, I think will get everybody's attention, maybe get them thinking about long-term effects of all of it. And I would encourage us to go forward with that first step next year and take a look at some kind, and we don't know what this is going to be yet, of long-term proposal for all the projects that need to be taken care of on this island. There are many. Obviously, they're all very heavily taxed. We don't like to look at taxes, but at least let us do this first part and move forward with some ideas for the future. Thank you.
John?
I don't have anything further.
Phil?
No, nothing further.
Les? No. Ted?
Again, from a historical perspective, we're kind of in a catch-22 on road seal because we pay for everything. And we have no means of raising funds. Our only income comes from taxes. There's some mandatory or revenue sharing from the state of Michigan, which is dwindling every year. There's some discretionary spending that is so small that we don't even budget it because we don't know if we're going to get it or how much it is. We don't own the roads, and we could petition to get the roads, but unfortunately, being the unique situation that we're in, if we get the roads, we get the bridge, because the bridge is the access to Grow Seal. Well, the maintenance on the bridge alone would eat up any money that we got from the state or federal government on a per mile basis and the state or federal funding. So we are in a catch-22. I think Bill's approach is correct. I think we do need to look at it. I think it's important that this commission set the priorities. And it becomes a pretty drastic priority because priorities are very simple for this department. The water you drink, the waste that leaves your house, and the roads. Those are huge priorities because they're all extremely expensive per mile. Everything that we do is expensive per mile. And we as taxpayers have to pay it all. And we need to be aware at all times that it could get too expensive to flush your toilet. It could get too expensive, and it has gotten close to being too expensive to water your lawn if you don't live on a river. And all those considerations have to be taken into place because there are very few people that are lucky enough to be living on a river and have utilization of that water. That's another issue that we might have to address at some point in time. We can't let it just go. We can't just say, well, we can't do anything about it because at some point in time, the total replacement cost would far exceed the maintenance that we're trying to generate here. And it would get to a point where we would be so far in the hole we'd never catch up. And the whole country is in that shape. It's not just Grow Seal, it's everybody in this country. All the infrastructure that was built back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s are going away, and nobody has the funds to fix them. I think we're very lucky to have a commission like this that I'm very proud to be a part of and have been a part of, that recognize the problem and are attempting to put together the funding, though it almost seems like you're trying to fill a lake with a water glass. But if you don't do something, the lake will go dry. And so that's basically what everybody here is saying. And we bring to the public, my fear is that we get to the point where we bring something to the public and they say, we're just not, we don't want to tax, we don't want any more taxes, we don't want to do it. And then we're really caught between a rock and a hard place. I think we have to utilize the funds that we currently have, the access to the funds that we're currently getting, and do the best job we can, and keep everybody educated. They need to be educated every day, because this board of 7 certainly can't solve those problems, but we can be the driving force to at least maintain what we have. And I think that's very important. I think this chip seal project is a great project. I think we really need to look into it.
Okay, thank you. Well, in that light, everybody, when you sat down tonight, you had in front of you a little green marking on it, a memo that was just dated, Friday. But I've been in contact with a company representative from Terry Asphalt Materials out of Alma. And he also, this Malcolm Smith, also represents a firm out of Columbus, Ohio. There aren't many firms that do this chip seal on a big scale. But he's willing to come out either October 29th or 30th and meet here and look at our roads with us and give us advice as to which roads are eligible, which are not, and pricing. And that addresses another issue. My memo to him is that I also ask him for any specifications. Because all this stuff, all the road stuff, we got, whatever our plan is another reason to have a vision. We've got to go to Wayne County.
Even though we're paying for it.
As a township, we don't own the roads. Cities own their own roads. In townships, the county owns the roads. So in Wayne County, I'll keep my mouth sealed. Has not been the easiest to work with in terms of trying to get something accomplished. And this gives us plenty of time, but in order, they have not done chip sealing in anybody's memory, but they used to do it. Anybody on staff told us, they used to do it years and years ago, but they quit doing it. And almost all the rest of the counties in the state do asphalt. If the asphalt road can be maintained with chip seal, though some have deteriorated too bad where they can't be. But at any rate, October 29th or 30th, do you have a preference? I mean, I'm open both those days.
Not going to be here the 30th.
So maybe we try the 29th and see if he can come out. So I'll let everybody know when we come up with a time. He's going to be coming from Grand Rapids, so I assume that it might be close to 11:30, something like that. We'll let everybody know. We'll probably meet here at the township and go look at roads. You're all going to be invited to go with us. Okay? So we'll try to zero in on the 29th. And the other thing I have is I got an article from SEMCOG, our regional planning agency. I just want you to call your attention to page 6 and of that, which talks about all the road monies that the Michigan Department of Transportation gets and how between the years 2007 and 12, the last 5 years, actually 6 years, the total revenues that MDOT collects went from 1.97 billion statewide, 1.9 billion to 1.8 billion. So it's actually dropped. The gas tax has actually dropped 15% since the year 2000. So that's what we're up against in terms of trying to get more money through MDOT or Wayne County. Is everybody's road monies are dropping. Greater fuel economy, we pay at the pump. People are getting more miles a gallon. A lot of people are driving less. Now you have electric cars and other things that are affecting that. So gasoline revenues are dropping, and it's affecting the money that Wayne County has to maintain our roads. So I passed the article out because it really supports the issue that we're all concerned about is money. So with that, public's invited to speak. It's public comment time. No, anybody? Okay. Then we'll go around. I have no other comments. Ted?
I just have a couple. Barry, I'm getting a couple of comments about hydrants with black bags over them. Can you tell us what that indicates?
Yeah, we have a couple of them right out here by Iverson's. We got a piece of water main over there that's inoperative. And what we've got to do to eliminate that totally, we got to go on the north side of the Iverson building. We need to cut and cap an area back there. We need to cut and cap a piece over here by Grow west of those hydrants that are bagged. What took place a year or two ago is we had a water main break under the approach at the east side of the Iverson building that comes in off of Grow Road. That entire piece of water main is not used for anything anymore. So rather than dig up the approach, remove the concrete, and repair the water main, we shut that section of main down.
Do you have a schedule?
Not yet, I don't.
Well, you know that we're currently negotiating a lease
Yeah.
for that property.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we can schedule, we just got to get a contractor to come in and do it for us. It would be under Rains's oversight. So,
I think we need to look at that because
okay,
things could start happening across the street.
sure,
pretty
it's
quick.
not a problem, but that was the reason for it.
Okay.
We have, those are very, very old hydrants. We have new ones right across the street on Grow Road to take care of any fire protection that we may
Okay,
need in
thanks.
that area.
I have one more issue. There's some road failure at Miami and Lakewood. It's on Miami. It
Haven't
looks
heard
like
about
there's a manhole there that's either falling in or the pipe going underneath it. It's caused a huge bump there and
We'll take a look at it.
deteriorating. Take a look at that.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it, notify the county.
I mean, residents have called me on these issues. So.
Okay, we'll check them out.
Okay, Les?
I think we should go contact the county some more about the intersection of Jefferson and Parkway. Today, I went to Ann Arbor for a seminar, and we went out, I don't know if any of you people drove King Road to Inkster Road or drove down Inkster Road, and there was one huge bump at the corner of Inkster and King. Well, this morning when we went out there, the county has roto-milled that whole intersection. And when we came back from Ann Arbor, they already had laid asphalt in one of the lanes. So they're finally getting around to repairing some of these things that are a needle under or a thorn under your fingernail. They did Van Horn over here, and they didn't do the whole road, they just roto-milled a section, and then they fixed the huge bumps that were on the bridge. But if they just did the corner, instead of trying to pave the whole, all the way up to the bridge and everything, it certainly would eliminate a huge problem. I mean, if we say, look, you guys are out doing these intersections, why can't you roto-mill this? They might be doing that to Church Road, roto-milling that whole intersection. We don't know what they're doing. But I was amazed when we went out there this morning, I go, wow, look at this.
Well, that's great, and, you know, we can try to get an answer from the county, maybe for our next agenda.
I can talk to them. I mean, we've basically had ongoing discussions about the Jefferson Parkway intersection. At one time, they had some money allocated for that intersection, but they were having trouble getting Trenton participation, and because it is in the city of Trenton. I'll touch base with them again and get an update from them on where it stands.
Yeah, we never know, because if the way they're coming in here and spot doing this roto-milling, they could take the bumps out of that corner, and I think everybody would be happy.
But we're paying for the work here, so.
Yes. Okay, well, that's good. Anything else? Phil?
Nothing.
Nothing further.
John? Nothing. Ron?
Good meeting, nothing else.
Jim? Staff? Barry?
No, good.
Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
And supported that the DPS Commission adjourn its meeting of October 8th. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, good job.